Imagine growing up in a family of carpenters. Every morning you wake up to the smell of sawdust, and your dad teaches you how to handle tools safely. Your grandfather teaches you how to read the wood, follow the wood grain, and know which wood is best for each project. Even without realizing it, you're absorbing your family's collective knowledge, passed down from generation to generation. I believe that this common knowledge is a common sense to some degree. This balances the where does common sense come from question. It comes from the areas around us. The interesting thing is, in our situation, what seems like common knowledge, if you invite a family of accountants into the shop, they would not know the same common sense, the same common information that we know, because they grew up in a different circumstance where different information was rewarded. Today we're going to explore what common sense really is and why is it becoming so increasingly rare in today's world. Let's start by understanding how common sense develops. We'll think of it like layers to an onion. Each layer is adding to our understanding of what is obvious. First, and the most important layer of common sense, at home. We call this our home common sense. Going back to our carpenter family example, the third generation carpenter knows certain things. He just instinctively knows what tools are safe, what wood grain is best for each project, and when a situation looks dangerous. He didn't come out of the womb knowing these things, but he knew them because of the way he was raised, the way he grew up around the situation. He absorbed it. We don't need to think of it as natural as breathing, but it's something that is environmentally impactful. This is because knowledge is passed down through our actions. We see it and we absorb the information that's prevalent. And this is our family common sense. The next layer of common sense is in the community level. These are shared experiences at the town or city or even neighborhood experiences. These are unwritten rules that kind of everybody in the city or town follows. In the community, maybe it's a common rule to bring food to share at social gatherings. Maybe it's shovel your neighbor's walk when it snows, or even small things like which store has the best value, or which part of town you should avoid, or who you can ask for help for a reasonable price. When a new family moves into the neighborhood, they don't just come knowing all of these things, all of this information. All of this is common sense on the community level, things that you can't just teach, but you kind of have to experience. And we zoom out again, and we have common sense on the national layer. These are cultural values or social norms that shape the way we think and solve problems. What's considered common sense in Japan is going to be completely different common sense than in Brazil or in Canada or the United States. And then when we zoom out again, we have the global layer. These are very rare principles that hold true to every culture, every language, every group of people. But there are things that this is where things kind of get concerning. We see these layers of common sense starting to fade away, and there are several reasons why. The first reason, I think, is the standardization problem. Our unique family traditions are disappearing, local community knowledge is being lost, cultural practices are becoming homogenized. Even our school system is contributing to this problem, with standardized test practices across the country. We're all expected to learn the same thing the same way, regardless of our local context and our needs. Teachers are being forced to teach to test rather than apply local needs or even question. Local teaching methods might work perfectly fine in specific communities, but they are replaced by the one-size-fits-all across the nation. Critical thinking is often sacrificed to test standardization practices, and the digital age itself isn't helping. We're experiencing information overload that clouds our judgment. We're having fewer face-to-face interactions where traditional knowledge is commonly shared and passed down. Instead of learning from our families and communities, we turn to search engines, social media, politicians, and AI to answer each of our questions, giving standard approaches. When we think about it, When was the last time that we sat down with our family to prepare a meal and we learned to cook from a relative rather than watching a YouTube video or just getting takeout? The last time you learned a skill through hands-on experience rather than through a screen. The standardization problem means that we're losing something precious, this rich tapestry of diverse problem-solving approaches that were passed down through trial and error, and a different approach for every family, community, or culture. It's been developed through generations. We're losing that. We're losing the simplicity. We're losing to simplicity and trading our unique perspective to a standardized solution. And the result is we might score well on tests that are all standardized across the nation, but we do lack that rich, diverse common sense that comes from exposing yourself to different family traditions, local knowledge, and that cultural practices become diminished. So what's the takeaway here? What can we actually do? Is there something we can do? Common sense isn't all that common because we all have the same common sense. That collection of knowledge that maps out to everyone. We don't have that unique perspective. We don't have that third generation carpenter just absorbing knowledge because we're all taught the same things in schools. We don't have that unique perspective. We're all taught to have a one-track mind, and that's good enough. And so how can we fix this? How can we solve this? The number one way, I think, is to start questioning. We'll dive deeper in a later video, but to develop a common sense in today, it's less about blindly following and more about questioning the rules, questioning why things are the way that they are, and finding wisdom that was lost from others. I want you to find that wisdom, find that thing that was lost. Ask your parents. They are pretty smart, even if sometimes we don't think so. They have unique perspective that they learned from their parent. Go back and back. Ask somebody for their life advice. It's going to be something different for everyone. And I think that's why we're losing that common sense, is because we're all gaining the same wisdom, the same structure. If you like this discussion, or at least this topic, subscribe, because I have more plans, more ideas written out of where I want to take this. I have at least 2 more parts coming, maybe 1 more, we'll see. Until next time, have a good one.